I want to say this right away, as this is probably aimed at people who are new to Savage or trying to get into Savage for the first time or attempting it for the first time. So even though you might have done Savage, unless you're a hardcore raider, you still may get some benefit out of that. For those who haven't ever done Savage, now is probably a great time to do so because it's the last raid tier of the expansion and it's been pretty fun so far. And I will say that for those who are new, everything feels scary or daunting for the first time. Savage really isn't that scary. It's probably more of your perception of it, and unless you decide to actually go do it, it will always feel scary. My advice to you would be to just hop into a PF or find some friends or one other person that you know and just go do it for a little bit. There is a little bit of a stepping stone that if you are new to like harder content, you might want to try an extreme trial first or Unreal. It's a good progression system to know if you're ready for Savage. Other things to note is you should be using food, having some of the best gear available, which you really don't have an excuse for because it's crafted gear and you can buy it off the market board, or waiting until you get the tome gear and all the gear from the new raid trial that is normal mode. Any one of those options is a great place to start in terms of gearing. Also should be known that you should have a basic understanding of your class. No, you do not need to have optimal DPS and be the best at your class by any means, but you should know the basics of how it works. Don't pick a class that you've never played before. Find something that is fun and comfortable for you to be on, and you'll have the best experience. Other things to note is you should definitely have a Prog mindset while going into Savage for the first time. It's okay to drop GCDs as long as you execute mechanics. Executing the mechanics is the most important thing you can do when learning a fight for the first time, even if it be an extreme or Unreal content. The damage will come after you understand how the mechanic fully works. It is the best way to prog, and it's to have a prog mindset of execution over damage. Communication is key, and asking for clarification or asking how a mechanic works that you don't understand is more beneficial to you than not asking. Someone else might have the same question as you and they're just too afraid to ask. There's a great quote for this. The one who asks the question is a fool for a minute. The one who does not ask the question is a fool for life. It is actually very relevant to Savage because if you don't understand how something works, this is why communication is important. Everyone will assume you know how the mechanic works unless you say so. Now, as the raid tier progresses, there will be lots of resources available to you. There'll be YouTube videos, there'll be Discords, there'll be MIT guides. It's very advantageous of you to look at some of these things. You do not need to study these rigorously in order to go into Savage tier, but it's a decent starting spot, and having an understanding of what mechanics you may see in a fight is very beneficial. You don't need to fully understand how every mechanic works, but you should have a basic understanding of what type of concepts you will see in the fight. It'll benefit you, and the more repetitions you have and the better earlier understanding you have of a mechanic is, the more successful your Savage experience will be. If you see a video that says limit cuts coming up and you have a basic understanding of how limit cut works, you'll have a better chance of resolving and understanding and executing the mechanic when the time comes. And it's basically because Square Enix puts limit cuts in every fight, because why not? Other things you can do are change your settings, such as the display name settings. You can change everyone's name to yellow, or have tanks and healers be identified differently in order to easier identify certain party members. You can also do so with your party list setting, so you can click to other roles easier depending on certain mechanics you might want to change how this is sorted on a fight basis. Other UI settings, such as putting the cast bars in the middle of your screen and increasing their size. There are tons of videos on this on suggestions that you could do, but look at some of those and have an understanding of why these might be beneficial to have raid buffs on the middle of your screen or the side of the screen, or easily identifiable. Before I go any further, some of my own personal tips that helped me are that there are lines on the arena floor for a reason. Use your eyeballs, look at the lines. They are scripted for mechanics. They're there to help you understand mechanics and learn mechanics. That's why they're there. They're just not lines on the floor for no reason. That is my biggest tip. There are lines on the floor for a reason. My other tip would be calling out the mechanics for yourself. You do not need to be in a voice channel with your friends or anyone by that means, but calling out the mechanics helps me understand and solidify my understanding of the mechanic. If I call what I have to do out loud, it helps me understand the mechanic that is coming up and how I need to execute it. That just might be a personal preference, but I suggest trying it. Other things I do that I find helpful is tying my ability usage to certain mechanics, knowing that whenever I hit a lance charge, a dual cast is coming up, for example, in the current raid tier. Now, my last tips might be the most important, but I want you all to know that this will take some time. You probably will not clear a savage fight in one sitting, so understand that it will take a decent amount of time. So if you do not actually have the time investment in order to commit to this, maybe it isn't right for you after all. Be open to criticism. Whether you screw up or not, someone will probably call you out on something or give you feedback on something that you can improve on. Just be open to it, be mindful of it. It's going to happen regardless. And one of my favorite tips is set up a new player party. There are tons of veterans in this game that love helping out first-time players or brand new players. And if you set up your own party finder that says, hey, I'm a first-time player and I've never done Savage before, people are more than willing to come and help you out. People love seeing people get their toes wet in content for the first time and love being there for people's first experiences through Savage. So when in doubt, you can throw up your own party and just say, hey, I'm a brand new player, and people will come flocking. But yeah, that is a lot of my tips on how to prog a Savage raid tier for the first time. Or maybe it's just some tips that is helpful for those who are having to PF it for the first time. But anyway, that's all I have for this video. As always, I hope you have a great